and good evening, and a very, very warm welcome to Season 2, Episode 6 on Culinary Craft, the passion, the performance, and some pain, Part 1, with three of my very good friends and extremely talented chefs, Chef Bobby Kapoor, Chef Irfan Pabani, and Chef Bernard Colasso. Thank you very much for being here. I want to say a few things about Chef Bobby Kapoor. I met him many years ago in one of my previous jobs where he was also working. He's based out of Dubai. He's one of the warmest chefs that I have met. Absolutely non-arrogant, down to earth, and he opened his arms and his home to welcome me during my induction period. Bobby, thank you for that. It remains a very, very fond memory till date. Bobby is the chef partner in a Dubai-based company called the Catalyst Solutions, which also does catering by the name of Classic Catering. He has over 3 decades of industry experience. He's an alumnus of IHM Bangalore and a postgraduate food production degree from the Oberoi School of Management. And he has an insatiable hunger for knowledge. Bobby lives his passion and works on all things food, and he knows he is blessed because of that. He simplifies food and work based on product, process, people, and packaging. We'll hear a little bit more about his philosophy on this and how he is making life easier for his clients. His business model is all about adding value to food and about profitability and the power of partnerships. He consults to add value. He creates SOPs. He does strategic planning, brand building, and food styling as well. He's recognized as one of the most effective restaurant and hospitality consultants in the region, UAE, Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Welcome, Bobby. Delighted to have you here. Chef Irfan Pabani, country head, soda bottle opener wala. He's a batchmate of mine and a very, very dear friend, an alumnus of Haft Sophia Polytechnic. He has been at the helm of some of the most notable restaurants in over the last 28 years of his career. Under the Over, La Cucina, Sejo and the Soul Dish, Indigo, Hakkasan, and Iwacha are some of them. Back in 2012, he ventured and partnered to start his dream restaurant, the Sassy Spoon. A little over 2 years back, he was consulting, and now he is the country head for Soda Bottle Opener Wala, which is part of the Olive Group, which runs 8 restaurants pan-India. Extremely affable and talented, he made wearing shorts and wearing bandana in the kitchens and restaurant a fashion statement. But let this not trivialize his skills and knowledge of food. For those of you who don't know, he's extremely, extremely popular on social media as well. He just put out a lovely video a couple of days ago on Bengan Bharta, and his first one in Hindi. For those of you who haven't watched it, please watch it. He's promised me that he's going to talk to me in Hindi today, and I'm going to take it up with him on that. Irfan, welcome. And just so that you're prepared, I want you to tell me, how do you say candid conversations in Hindi? You have about 3.5 minutes to Google that out. Bernard Colasso, another dear friend, and I've had the honor to work with. He's a dreamer and an ideator at Mog Cake Studio and All Things Good under his company, Maverick Minds Hospitality Services. If there's one word that can actually describe Bernard, is Maverick. An alumnus of Rizvi College of Hotel Management with a specialization in kitchen from the IHM Mumbai, he also has over 2 decades of experience. He started Moksh, a wellness spa place in South Bombay. He's worked with Impresario Entertainment and Hospitality Private Limited and most of their brands, almost all, Mocca, Saltwater Grill, Smokehouse Grill, Del Italia, and he's been instrumental in uplifting the menu and menu designing. He's also been the executive chef with French Loaf, and these are some of the brands that he has lent his talent to. Currently on his entrepreneurial journey with Mog Cake Studio and All Things Good, Mog is amongst the top 10 cake design stores in the country. For those of you who don't know what Mog means, Mog is a Konkani word for love. He manages the hotel and restaurant operations of Pattaya-based city center residences managed by AHA Smart Stay as well, with one foot in Goa, India, Bombay, whenever he can, and the other in the lovely Bangkok. He's just come back a few weeks ago, very safe and sound, and he's right now in Goa. And thank God for that. He travels across Asia, helping small, medium, and budget hotels plan their kitchens, menus, and staff training. Thank you, Bernard, and welcome to the show. Last but not the least, on this Saturday, I'm speaking with Tanaz, Jiten, and Prasanna on travel, trade, and international business, a road to recovery. For those of you who are interested, take a snapshot. The link is there. Registrations are open. And I hope to have you guys on the show on Saturday. With that, I'm going to stop the screen share and request my panelists to put on their audio video, and we'll start the conversation. Hello, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Welcome, Bobby, Bernard, and Irfan.
Hey, how are you?
Hey.
Excellent. Thank you guys for joining in. Lovely to have you here. And let's begin on a very, very simple note. We'll start with Bobby, and then we'll do to Bernard and Irfan. Please talk to us a little bit about your current company. What do you guys do? What does your company do? A little bit more than a little, just so that the audiences get to understand what you're doing before I deep dive into speaking a little more about the industry and the passion, the pain, and the performance of being a chef. Bobby, all yours.
Thank you, Satyan, and great to be in this esteemed company. In 2012, I decided I will not work for anyone and started a journey which basically was something that has been one of learning. And I'm really blessed to be able to do that right now. So I started a business called Catalyst Food Solutions. A la carte is a French word, list is a list. And I said, let me listen to people and develop food based on what they want. And the journey has been interesting because I learned that nobody wanted to give you money if you were a consultant, because that was what I was doing. Today we have 4 verticals, a team of about 68 people plus 20 on contract, so that's about 88 people. And yeah, it's been one hell of a journey, 8 years, and we're still going strong. What does Catalyst do? 4 verticals in business. 1, we are consultants. 2, we are an innovation expert for companies which are corporates. So we go about developing items for companies the likes of Subway. We do ideations with Domino's and a lot of other companies in the market. We're working with about 31 companies on the innovation platform. The third part we do is we actually blend spices and we sell spices, but these are customized for customers. So we try to get into the DNA of companies. So if you might be eating a muffin of Costa, I work with partners who manufacture the muffin mix. If you basically go about going and eating a kebab in a restaurant, I basically go about making sure the kebab in 250 restaurants is the same. So that's what I do. And the 4th vertical I developed was I added a kitchen to the whole shebang because I wanted to give products that I was talking to people that I could produce, which were all natural. So I came up with this adage of food the way it should be. What I can give my own children was the thought in my head. And that now is also growing. COVID has been one of learning. We went about focusing on 2 segments of the market because the 4 verticals we had in the business of catering died down. So events died, corporates died. 3rd vertical we had was something which we went about calling gourmet, which we actually supply food to restaurants. The 4th vertical we had in that was retail. So today, my main area of focus is retail. The footprint is growing. We love it that it's growing. We actually do a lot of street food for the hypermarkets. We are trying to convert hypermarkets into food halls. So the focus is on that. Another thing that we are focused on is all the companies that go about doing cloud kitchens. We are trying to go being their R&D center. So what we're doing is we're giving them food products that are either frozen or chilled, but with a longer shelf life. So what they have is something they can use in their concepts easily with a longer shelf life. And that way they actually save a lot of money. So that's been the journey in the last 8 years.
Thank you. Thanks, Bobby. Bernard?
I have been with Impresario for the major part of my career. That was about for nearly about 11 years, opening up right from the first mock-up with Riaz. And as they call it, the first chapter, Satyan would know that. After 11 years, I went on to be the corporate chef of Oriental Cuisines in Chennai, which basically runs hot breads, French loaf, Benjerong, which is a Thai restaurant. But I used to wear formals in the kitchen. And there were too many reports. And yes, as a corporate chef, you kind of like always had to do that. But numbers that time weren't my forte. But I used to get fried in the kitchen. And I said, let's kind of like do something on my own. Very close friends of mine basically really pushed me and said, if you cannot do it now, you'll never will. And now it's going to be 9 years now that I stepped into entrepreneurial shoes. I came into Goa. Everybody thought I was really mad coming to Goa because people from Goa go to Bombay to work. I was doing vice versa. And I came into Goa to basically do a cake studio. When I started doing a recce of what was happening in Goa, all cake shops, there was only Monjanis over here. And even if somebody did a small little coffee shop, you would have the very typical Black Forest pastry photograph on the board and, like a coffee cup and, that kind of stuff. But I came in with a vision that I needed to survive because I had everything on the gambling table. I remortgaged my house. I did everything. I said, let's try it. And I'm glad I did it. Okay. It's been like 9 fantastic years. And in this whole shebang of kind of like these 9 years, last 4 years, I got a chance to basically work with a company basically in Thailand where we were ideating for Lays. And we used to do all their back-end flavors for Lays. And I started networking with a lot of people over there. And now Thailand's my second home. I landed up kind of like running a hotel now. We run a 102-room hotel in Pattaya by the name of Aha Smart Stay at the city center residences. And I keep traveling between Mumbai, Goa, and Bangkok. And in Mumbai, a couple of years back, I helped Mervans. I helped them set up their entire kitchen in Vashi, kind of like help them do up their frozen plant in Vashi. And and it's been fantastic being entrepreneur.
Wow.
Okay, great. Thank you, Bernard. Irfan, long journey in, did you get the Hindi word? Did you find out? First tell me that.
Yeah. So first of all, the minute you said you have 3.5 minutes, I didn't need 3.5 minutes. For me, the candid conversation is what bindas baate or bindas gupshup. That's what I would call it. And we should do a session only in Hindi.
Bless.
But yeah. It's been 28 years since I've been a chef, and as Satyan mentioned, it's been really, really interesting for me because working in the restaurants that I have, it's each one has been a very different experience. Starting with Under the Over with Rahul Akerkar, and the whole perspective of restaurants were very different back in the day. Way back in 1992, it was all about the 5 stars, and there were very few standalone restaurants, and Under the Over was one of them. And And so I'd made up my mind that I was never going to work in a 5-star hotel. It's something that I just didn't enjoy. And after that, it's just been a fabulous journey. Moved to Bangalore for a bit, came back, started La Cucina, which is my own catering business, and then worked with Nitin and Kishore at Potpourri Lemongrass Cafe, and of course Tejo and the Soul Dish. And so I went to Singapore after half. I did a course in Pan Asian food, and I grew up in the Philippines. So for me, Southeast Asian food is like really, really close to my heart. And then it's just always been such a fabulous learning. I think in the kitchen, I just absolutely love it. So I didn't need to, like Bernard was saying, he was in formal clothes in the kitchen. I've never been in formal clothes except when I've had to, but I'm always in shorts, in my chef coat, in and out of the kitchen. And I absolutely love it. So for me, it's one thing that I absolutely love. Hakkasan Yawacha was another different experience. Moving back with Rahul to Indigo was again a gem, because Indigo at that point was arguably the best standalone fine dine restaurant in the country. And then of course the Sassy Spoon, that was fun for me. That was really, really fun, because that was food that I really wanted to give people. Right now, of course, Soda Bottle Opener Wala, I think household name. It's a great brand. I think it's a fabulous brand. I've tried to change things. I think a lot of things that you need to do, and what a lot of people don't realize is the attitudinal change that you have to give people. I think it's really important to give perspective from the time that I've started working to the end. I think perspective is really, really important. It's about making sure that everyone's in a good mood, because I think if you're not in a good mood, your food eventually doesn't come out the way it's supposed to. And so you're always trying to, it's this fine balance between trying to crank out some really good food, and everyone's got, all 5 fingers aren't the same. One guy's having a bad day, one guy's had a fight with his wife, one guy needs a loan, and you need to sort of deal with all of those issues. So besides trying to crank out some good food, you're also trying to sort of mediate between the front, between the back. It's so important for me that the front of the house and back of the house just work so well together. But yeah, Soda's been a journey. It's been a year and a half now, but it's the pandemic's been pretty much half of that. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Okay. Thank you, Irfan and Bobby and Bernard. I want to move to the next simple question before I get into the spicier part. Okay, all of you are chefs and very talented and very well known. What excites you as a chef? What is it, even today, after so many years, that you wake up and you say, hey, I want to go and cook? What is it about being a chef that excites you? Bobby?
I was always, as a kid, I always believed that, eating food was the biggest joy that our family could have. But when it's coming or going to the kitchen, it's funny that I still have butterflies in my stomach when I go about working on cooking for the kids right now, because they, to me, are my biggest judge in some ways. Working on corporate presentations and stuff, the attitude is very different. I always go about saying I'm alone or I have a team. My win ratio has to be high. It has to be far better than any corporate that I know. And I do not focus on perfection, but I work on precision. So if I'm going to show you something, I would have worked it 10 times before I bought it to you, because my win ratio has to be above 70%. I'm not doing it. So there's been a change in modality. It just depends on who the customer is. But I think it's butterflies in the stomach which still, get me on. And I think the other blessing is that I'm always there in the kitchen. So I guess I get to live what I love to do every day. So that itself is a blessing. I wake up at 3:34 in the morning and I'm ready to go. So I can still do that. I'm only 50 years old. It rocks.
Good. Thank you. Bernard, what motivates you?
It's just basically, I'm in my own space. So basically being a chef is, uh, uh, I mean, you get up in the morning, okay, fine, you're on the pot, you suddenly come up with something, some idea strikes you, and like, Shivan, you're going back to the kitchen to kind of like try it sometimes. And it's happened many a times for me over here. I was actually a hot kitchen chef, but my working experiences has always, taken me to the sweeter part. Like with Mocha, it was coffees and desserts and milkshakes and that kind of stuff. Then a bakery at the French Loaf. And when I came into to do Moog, it was a whole different thing. It was like, doing wedding cakes and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot that I kind of like learned, in these last 2 decades. Presently now, it's a whole different thing. I mean, I try implementing whatever I kind of like learn in Southeast Asia back into Goa, because I personally feel food in places like Singapore, Bangkok are far ahead in terms, in terms of not only quality availability of ingredients, but also in terms of equipment and that kind of stuff. They're like really, really fine, and especially bakery. So yeah, I mean, you get to do what you want to kind of like do. And probably being an entrepreneur is, I can afford to make mistakes. If I screw up, it's a little difficult on the pocket. But yes, I mean, you kind of like learn through those mistakes, but you're wiser then.
Sure. Thanks. Irfan, what
Yeah,
motivates you
so
every day to be besides wearing a bandana and shorts? What else?
so shorts for me is just a normal thing. In fact, when I'm not wearing shorts, if I'm wearing pants and if I go to the restaurant and everyone's like, Ari, do you have to go somewhere? It's like they look at me and they start laughing when they see me in pants, because nobody's ever seen me in pants. But I wear shorts, by the way. But yeah, so for me, it's about, especially when I had the sassy spoon, for me, that busy lunch and dinner time is what really, the satisfaction that you get after a lunch session, a busy lunch session or a busy dinner session, where you've cranked out some really, really good food. For me, that's really very, very fulfilling. To be able to sit and work on recipes, to be able to sit and work on ideas, to get ideas, to try and motivate even my team, to be able to for them to be able to come up with stuff that's different. That unfortunately, when you're doing your own space like Bernard's doing, and I totally get what he says when he's in Thailand or Singapore, because Southeast Asia is just, it's got the most amazing food. If I had a choice, I would move to Southeast Asia in a heartbeat. But yeah, it's about sort of giving your team perspective. A place like Soda Bottle Opener Wala, we're now sort of changing a little bit, because it's the order of the day. You can't just stick to doing plain Parsi and Bombay street food. You need to sort of push the envelope, but without trying too hard. So, every day you're sort of trying to, it's a little tougher to be in the kitchen right now, because as business head, I'm handling 8 restaurants, and it's not easy to sort of try and get everyone on the same page, because it's not, and I think everybody knows that. But yeah, for me, it's about just getting in, making sure we're giving the best food ever, and that's what gets me going. Right now, during the pandemic, I've been cooking every day, and like Bobby was saying, my family are the biggest critics. In fact, when we order food from outside, they tell me, see, cook like that, don't cook the way you cook. So yeah, but yeah, it's fun. I enjoy cooking for the family completely.
Great, thank you. Okay, I want to pick your brains on a very non-controversial but a little bit of sensitive point, and it's about critics of food today. Critics of food today could be children, could be anyone who has an access to a smartphone, who believes they know about food because they've traveled, who've tasted food, and they've read about food in their own way. How do you guys as professionals handle criticism? First of all, from someone who is just a nobody, and 2, and most importantly, people who write about food, bloggers. With all due respect, a lot of them are talented. A lot of them are probably, they know their food, if I may say so, in a very polite way. But there are some who are ghostwriters and they just like to write and be critics. How do you handle all three of them? Bernard, let's start with you on this one.
One is basically I've come across a lot of these kind of like people right since my Mocha days. Right, I mean I still remember an instance where we were at the Delhi Mocha and just opening up GK1, and just like Irfan, I used to only wear shorts. People who knew me, I used to only be in 3/4 in my kitchen. But I had this lady who basically came up to me with a very European accent, probably took a Raj Tours and Travels, 7-day trip to France, came back and said, this is not a tiramisu, and she gave me a whole spiel on what a tiramisu is and that kind of stuff. And that time we used to do a cheese fondue. And we used to use the regular cheese because, Delhiites, anything with like, processed cheese, a little wine, and they like really love it. And she says, okay, fine, now you got me my fondue, give me some Tabasco. And I was like, so there are people who you'll kind of like get, but you have to just take it with a pinch of salt. Like even in Goa, we get so many kind of like customers who kind of like, most importantly, keep crank calling me just to find out rates. Okay, if I'm selling a cake, especially like a wedding cake, I don't understand why people don't kind of like, put out, like say, okay, how much do you quote for a cake? But, I can actually make out on a tone of voice, okay, when another caker is basically calling me up to kind of, find out rates, and, then I kind of like start cross-questioning them, and if they speak the jargon, then they're caught, okay? But with most food critics, and the food critics that are actually known, you cannot mess around with them, okay? But I would say 90% of them are all faff. I mean, I still feel I get so many people who calling me up for collabs. Okay, they will say, okay, we've got about 5,000, 10,000 followers on Facebook, 20,000 followers on Facebook. And I say, I've got about 75,000 followers on Facebook, so why don't you pay me some money? So I've been now, in 8 years, I've been able to understand, and, you can, gather the pulse on when you're talking to somebody, and when somebody is just throwing faff, you kind of like just taken through 1 year and just throw it off the other year.
Sure. But tell me, Bernard, does it affect you? As human beings, we all look for validation, right?
It does. Yeah, but to be very honest, I've learned to ignore. Like today, to be very honest, I've learned to say no to somebody who I don't want to do a cake to. I've reached the stage. Sometimes I have brides who kind of like keep nagging me, about, 2 months before the wedding, and, we want this pink color flower at the 2 o'clock position, on this position, and you can make out if I find the client a little too cranky, a little too, trying to like, push the limits, I would kind of like just refuse the order, because how much ever we kind of like put it into a cake, okay, this client will always find a fault, okay, and that affects, the mode of work for the next 2 days. Nobody wants a bad comment on Facebook, like, there are clients who kind of like call me up, and I have a pricing sheet, which, it's everything's self-explanatory. And they would say, but they want, for you to tell them, okay, fine, this cake costs X amount. And I say, everything is mentioned on the pricing sheet. I have people actually, writing, oh, he does not have time to actually explain, when, there's everything, specified. But I want to do that, and most importantly, and I tell other cakers too, learn to say no. Okay, yes, you always want to get the business in, but at the end of the day, you need to sleep well. Because there are some clients who, screw your head, you may put in 110% into the cake, into your product, but they'll always find some fault or the other, and we are human. We are human. Like if you're making figurines on a cake, okay, Some people want, the exact picture. They'll give you a reference picture and they'll say, ditto, we want the same. So I keep telling them I'm not a Xerox machine. I'm not a photocopying machine. I could get there 95%, but you have to believe that, about 5%, to get the design right. But
Sure.
I've learned to say no, and I've reached a stage where basically if somebody screws their head, one peg and you're off to sleep.
Good. But that's the advantage of being your own boss and being in Goa and in Pattaya. Divya, thank you for raising your hand. Before I move ahead, all of you, when you raise your hand, it means hello at Candid Conversation. So if you have anything to say or write to us, please use the Q&A and I'll take it up with the panelists. But otherwise, I'll assume that you're saying hello. So hello back from the panelists and me. Great. Bobby, how do you handle, specifically, I'm more concerned and probably want to hear from you about, not just about criticism, but about the fact that anyone and everyone can write about food. And how do you are living in a part of the world probably which is, I won't say advanced, but probably, an eclectic mix of global people around more than in India. So how do you handle that for your food that you put up?
Okay, I think as a chef, I spent time in restaurants in London. I worked across about 10 countries before I went about coming to the Middle East. So London was home, and that's where I was trying to aspire for a Michelin star. So we got 7 forks out of 10. The learning was different. We went about being ratified by the best in the industry. They were talking of experiences, a gastronomic experience, food and wine pairing. A lot of other things went into it. So there was this one part. And now I come to this beautiful me-centric generation, where this me-centric generation is, I'll try to put it down in a left-hander's lingo. That's how I simplify food, if I'm allowed to. Okay, so there are many ways to milk a cow. I want milk. I want to know the quality of milk. I want to know the solid not fat ratio. I want to know what the fat is. I want to know all the bloody nonsense around milk, right? Because I want milk. And in this country, you don't get fresh milk. So you get different parts of milk. It's coming from different parts of, from New Zealand, from Australia, from different parts. And there's a lot of work happening around milk. But this me-centric generation is telling me milk comes from room service or milk comes from retail. There are no bloody cows. Now it's a tough one trying to convince them that a cow has 4 tits. You actually go about milking them. You can use a machine. There's a mechanized format for it. There are hormones you use. There are antibiotics. So it's always interesting to have opinions. And with social media, we have a lot of opinions. So Brian can go about saying, what, I need a drink. I can go about saying it. I have this part of saying, I can switch on, I can switch off. It's my business. It's not that I make the rules, but I will listen to you. But what's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. So let's differentiate that and work it through in a way that we can actually add value. So criticism is always good. It always adds value. Competition is something that we need to survive as a human race. And it's always fun to actually go about, take down notes and actually work on those challenges that people are talking about, because that's a process equation, that's a people equation, that's those modalities that you can work on. But the question whether milk comes from room service or comes from, that's
Sure.
not a battle I want to fight.
Sure.
And I have a daughter who's 16 and who teaches me about life in specific. But they are very focused. The millennials, they're very focused. They know what they want. They have opinions, but not necessarily all the opinions have the depth, the knowledge, and the detailing that we look for. So my part is, we can always argue about how well Michael Jackson danced, but if he's gone today and we're talking about whether the moonwalk was fudged or he was doing it in space, it's something that we can listen about, but it doesn't really add value. So take it with a pinch of salt. Always good to hear the other side of the story.
Sure.
And make the most of it.
Thanks,
I hope
Bobby.
I got the message across.
In a very diplomatic way as you could. I'm not going to leave you guys. I'm going to keep coming back, but thank you for that bit. Irfan, let's have a little more candidness from you.
Sure. First of all, I'd like to thank Bobby, because I didn't know that a cow had 4 tits, but Thank you for that. That was very informative. But yeah, no, honestly, Satyan, 28 years, I cannot tell you how people, and I think it's very important to take a lot of people's points of view, but not when it becomes ridiculous. We had a guest once where we were doing an omelet at breakfast, and I was using smoked scaramozza. And the guest, so he was eating his omelet, and he said, "This is not smoked scaramozza," and I said, "Yes, it is." And what we used to do was, just for the ease of it sort of melting, we would grate the smoked scaramozza specifically for the omelet, and for the rest of it, for the rest of everything I was using it with, I was cutting it into cubes. And so, and he was like, "This is not smoked scaramozza," and I was like, "It is." And so we sent him out the same smoked scaramozza in cubes and the one which was grated. And he looked at the one which was grated and he said, "This is not smoked scaramozza, this is smoked scaramozza." How do you argue with somebody like that? So, you need to sort of ask yourself, is it worth going and even having a conversation with somebody who's an idiot? The problem is, the problem is here. You know what? Look, I have absolute respect for a lot of people who know their food, but there are so many of them who feel very empowered because today the social media has changed everything. They threaten you and they say, "We're going to put a post out and we're going to say that, this is what happened." And you can't get scared. If you are true to yourself, if you are true to what you do as a chef, and if you are true to your organization and you know what you're cranking out is something that is of value, you can't afford to get scared. You will have a lot of people like this. You will have a lot of people who you need to know who to respect. You need to know who actually talks sense, and you need to know those who don't. Eventually, there's so much of content out there. I sort of look at it and I tell myself, okay, they'll post something. They have a lot of followers. For all you know, their core target market are not even the people who come to us. The thing is, stick to your values, stick to what you're doing well, and I think that's something that really works. I think for me also, my relationship with a lot of these bloggers is very good. I can chat with them. I can talk to them. I joke with them. So eventually, even if somebody is a little pissed off, you sort of tend to calm the situation down, and things get a little better. But it's for us. I'm not going to say it's a losing battle, because the minute we as restaurateurs and chefs say that this is a losing battle and we'll never be able to win against the bloggers, then we're really in trouble. And it's something that it's always something that has to have a balance. And I think it's important that they respect the amount of work that we put in. 12, 14 hours of work is what all of us must have done when we started out. Everybody here knows that. And it's a lot of effort to be able to crank out 30 items on a menu is a lot of work. And it's it's unfortunate that they don't know how much goes into being a chef and being able to crank out stuff that we do.
Sure. Thanks. Whilst I agree with all of you in some ways or the other, I restrict my thoughts in some way, and I have nothing against people who criticize or who write about food, and everyone has their own right to do that. Sometimes, and this is my personal observation, I feel that they write on celebrity chefs or celebrity brands just to get noticed themselves. Today, if I were to write about Bernard or Irfan, I'm going to get eyeballs. This is what I have noticed and I've seen, an example I'm giving you. But I will not write about Satyan, who probably half the world doesn't even know or nobody knows about. The fact that they don't have that much of knowledge of the food itself is also what irritates me. I know all of you are very nice people, and you've refrained yourselves from going a little more candid, as much as I'd love to, but thank you very much nonetheless. Bernard, my next question is coming to you. You've always been, you also mentioned that, you've been a, hot kitchen chef initially. And, whilst you've done everything, you do a lot of photography, you do your own photography, I know that. You also dabbled in some, I would say, food ingredient food processing and R&D stuff that you helped a lot of companies with, and you still do probably, yeah. Where did this love for baking come from? Suddenly from where? Because I mean, honestly, I always thought you'd do something more in the hot food space, hot kitchen rather than the cold kitchen. So when did that happen, and are you happier in this space right now?
I basically, to be very honest, in Mocha, I mean, the job basically was derived around chocolate and that kind of stuff. So a lot of that went into, kind of like doing a lot of playing around with a lot of chocolate and a lot of sugar and that kind of stuff. But when I kind of like started doing my own brand, I realized one thing is that, where there's sugar, there is money. And where there is, where there was maida, there is maggots kind of stuff like, so I don't make any bread, okay, at my store. So I'm pretty focused on what I actually want to do. There's money on desserts, there's money on cakes, okay, but there's absolutely no money in breads. I've seen large brands, I've helped large brands basically, kind of like, establish themselves, and I've seen them fall. For the simple fact is that, they spend so much of time and effort on kind of like doing breads, but the number of breads produced does not translate into the amount of sales that you actually need to survive. So the wisest thing that I probably did was basically, and it was actually told to me by a restaurant friend of mine from Ahmedabad. He told me, Brenna, where there is sugar, there is money, buddy, and you just concentrate on that. And I just took that advice. And and I focused only on cakes. To be very honest, my first wedding cake, if I look at it, about 8-9 years back, I would laugh, the way I kind of like, did it. But over the years, basically, I'm kind of like pretty happy the way things have turned out. I learned my sugar craft from a chef who used to basically work at the Royal Palace in Thailand. And now I teach the Thais back how to make flowers in sugar. So basically, they fly me down from India back to Thailand to teach the Thais how to do the stuff. So it's not like, they say consultants, they catch your own watch and tell you the time. But if they pay you the money, then why not?
Bless.
But on the other hand, baking, it always fascinates me. Especially desserts and playing around with chocolate and that kind of stuff. And moreover, last 8 years, I have heavily invested and reinvested not only into knowledge, but also into equipment at my store. I've got, I can proudly say my store is like pretty equipped. We've got blast freezers. We've got, you name the latest silicone molds, okay, it's with me in the next 2 weeks. What I do in Bangkok is I work alongside with a lot of chefs, and I work for free. Basically, I mop their floors. I work in their kitchens, in the industrial kitchens, back-end kitchens, just observing. I work with especially a chef called Eric Perez. He is he's a two-time MOF and world champion, and also the patisserie director at the Ritz-Carlton in Shanghai. For nearly about a year, I only mopped floors at his kitchen. Okay, me being an entrepreneur, spending all my money, going to Bangkok, working there in the nights, but observing the way he kind of like, the way that they work fascinates me. And basically, I've kind of like put in all those inputs back into Moog, where earlier, about 4 years back, I would operate with about 22 people on my team. Today, I operate with all the equipment just with about 10, 11 people, and we crank out much more stuff. So desserts, everything blast frozen, we do our fillings. We work with food ingredient companies, not only in India, but also in Bangkok, who basically devise kind of like, my flavor profiles and that kind of stuff. And I think so that's the way food is going to kind of like be in the future. If you're doing in the commercial aspect, not in terms of restaurants and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, baking confectionery has kind of like, was never my first love, but it just it rakes in the mullah.
You know, the last couple of minutes that you were speaking, I couldn't help but smile with a lot of love and a lot of appreciation. I've seen you grow, Bernard, as a chef in shorts also in Mocha, running from the central kitchen down to the first floor and making us taste the kind of stuff that you used to do, to the Pakka businessman or entrepreneur that you've turned out to be. And I just feel extremely proud and happy for the
Thank you.
No, and I'm not taking any credit for it, except for the fact that I'm feeling very, very happy that, you know, you didn't waste yourself, if I may say so, in a very polite way. Keep going, man. Lots of luck to you, and you know, good luck. Bobby, I want to move to you with two specific points. One is, you know, there's a part of your business vertical which is consultancy. In today's times, I don't mean today as in today, but in the near future, do you see value for consultancy in this industry, in the restaurant industry or the F&B industry space? That's one part. And the second part, and you could take both, whichever one you want to take first, is the ready-to-eat and the ready-to-cook food in the supermarkets. You've done some extensive work. You continue doing on that. What have you seen a growth in your region in the last couple of months in that product segment?
Sure. So the first question you were talking about was consultants. So I used to consult for restaurants earlier. Brick and mortar was the name of the game. I worked with Synergy restaurant consultants in the US, worked with iFranchise, worked with a few other consultants in the market here. So I was rubbing shoulders with the likes that would give me a kind of a process, a format, or something that I would learn from them. So learning was my base. We started coming into our own in places like Bahrain and places like Kuwait, where people wanted a complete solution from us. So we worked with concepts like Lumi. We worked with concepts which were just about a dried lime, right? That comes in Bahrain. And we created a concept which is completely different from what the market goes about looking at. And it was a success, and confidence grows. We worked with Zaroob here, which was about Levant street cuisine. Again, a success to work with. Today, when I do a consultancy, I find out that the concepts are growing very simple. There's a guy who's Lebanese who's teaching me how to cook Japanese fried chicken. And I go over looking at him saying, you know, the Japanese are so precise about ingredients. Sesame oil doesn't go out from Japan. It stays in Japan because they want the ingredient to be specific. They want it to be the best. Unfortunately, you're working the same product here in this market, and there's no barometer of what the quality should be. And in the end, you go about saying that the market likes it because it's a boneless piece of chicken, which has been fried, and it's just a tempura, if you ask me. But like I say, the market is always going to be your barometer for knowledge, and it's going to give you feedback. So what are we doing today in consultancy? We are still working on what we do best. And the idea is to always go about being very focused in the business we are in, because if there's no focus, there's no money to be made. So I've always said, you know what, let's go about looking at the sandwich businesses. They will get me money. I'm working with all the companies that make sandwiches in the market here, whether it's Subway, whether it's Tim Hortons, whether it's anybody else. So I'm focused on that part. But what I'm seeing right now is that companies want simpler formats. Cloud kitchens are in. So if you look at, we're doing concepts. I'm doing a concept called Flour Power. What we're doing is pizzas. We've gone about investing and finding out what kind of cheeses we can go about talking of in the market. They are vegan. They no longer have any dairy product in it. We're talking of concepts that are completely changing in terms of what people want. And that's getting to be interesting. So we're looking at companies like Corn. We're looking at Linda McCartney. We're looking at all the companies in the market that are doing something different. And that's the fun part, because we are talking about future of food. And when you start talking of future of food, you're not talking of just what Bill Gates writes in Gates Notes. What he's talking about, energy being used to go about converting products, not talking of health as a general specific product. What we are talking about is, what is the future going to be? Why is the population explosion driving us towards newer ingredients? But the US is only looking at proteins. We are not interested in proteins. People want other opportunities and other ideas. So that's the first part. So consultancy is changing. It's changing way too rapidly because the market is demanding healthier options and better options, and not necessarily in the protein space. So I would say that the good news is that 33% of your market today is making educated choices for what they're eating. And that is what we need to focus on. because tomorrow that's going to drive your revenues. And people don't mind the price when it goes about working it through. Come on, man. In a country like India, the land of Kama Sutra, immunity was the most Googled word for a period of 3 months. I mean, come on, where does it happen?
So you're right. So, I just want to let you stay with the same point on consultancy and get a little pointed answer is, with the industry being the way it is right now, where restaurants are shutting down, businesses are shutting down for good, bad, ugly reasons whatsoever, where do you see the role of a consultant? Do you think that investors or brand owners or brand business houses are going to need a consultant to get their businesses up, or will they just figure it out themselves?
So I'm basically focusing on investing in segments or working with people in the market who are looking at food very differently. Luckily, I'm working with a few companies that basically go about making me think differently. So we're looking at a lot of investment in food in the last year, but it was to do with the development of seeds, because farming is changing. People are talking yields. So we're talking of hydroponics, which means all our salads, all our microgreens, all these things we're talking of nutrition are changing. There's evolution in that space. Third part that we're talking about is we are talking of Beyond Meat, Impossible Burger. We're talking of a lot of things that are going in that segment. So we're seeing a lot of growth in that segment, which means that that's also interesting. We are then talking of exploding proteins to go about creating false or pseudo meats, but they are actually proteins. So we have got false chicken, false duck, they are actually meat, but they are actually coming out of a lab, right? So we are seeing a lot of space in that segment. We have seen a company that's doing a lot of things in fish, which is again being interesting to look at. And I can keep talking of companies in this space because we see a lot of movement in this space right now. Now, how does one go about looking at being on top of it? So it's first understanding that we come from India and we have 1,800 opportunities in terms of what vegetarian options are there that we can go about taking in, because India covering food that is vegan or vegetarian is very easy, right? Superfoods. We have a lot of superfoods in India which people don't even know of. Raw bananas, jackfruit. Flours of the same can be used for making products that people don't even know of, can exist. Millets. So we are talking of gluten-free options, jawar, ragi, bajra, and we have Banyar Millet. We can keep talking about that as well. So the market is pretty interesting in Indian space. It's just that the opportunities are so many. One has to just sit down and collate the data and then make sure the market has it, because people are reading labels. The second question you asked me is RTC, or ready to cook and ready to eat products. So you always say that the biggest barometer is a developed country that goes about looking at RTCs. For me, I don't look at US, because US is more about junk food. The biggest barometer is a land that has a lot of restaurants, and I've always looked at UK as one of my biggest barometers for learning and knowledge. So I keep talking to the chefs there. And the one part we have got is the concepts that are working for consultants like me is the people today are restless. So if I have a concept, the concept does have to have evolution as a model, which means a chef can change every week. Even, the most valued restaurant, which is actually selling salads, 7 restaurants valued at $1 billion. And that restaurant today is working on a concept of restless, where the chef who's making the salad changes every week. So you have a celebrity chef coming on board and he's talking of his products and it works. So what we're talking of is the market is evolving. The speed is amazing. And the knowledge that's there, we have to change and we have to add value. So it's a beautiful place to be in right now. There's a lot of information going on. And in the retail space, in RTUs and RTCs, the kind of ingredients you're looking at today, unfortunately, people are reading labels and there is a lot of growth. A friend of mine, Martin Prasad, he's based out of UK. He joined a concept called Leaf, where he's only talking of food which are either linking environment and farming, or foods that are vegan, where there's no dairy or any other meat product put in. He's at a 700% growth. Being a CEO with a seed capital for a company, this guy is a millionaire already. So one has to look at opportunities out there.
I understand, and I'm sure there is a market for it worldwide. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago, and in UK itself, in the COVID times, obviously because of the advanced market that it is, the RTC, RTE market has exploded. Is that happened in the Middle East as well?
No, see, the Middle East is a confluence of different kind of nationalities in some ways. So you have the locals who have big families, not dynamic families. So what happens is they have their own chefs working for them. So they are having the advantage of going in for products which will be bought in and cooking home cooked meals. And that's brilliant, right? It's given, COVID hasn't really affected them as much because they have the Mother Nature providing for them, and they've gone about making sure that these cycles work for them, right? Then you have the Europeans who are talking about, and now if you went about putting the husband wife together, who are Europeans, and said, you know what, you're not going to do much for the month or for the next couple of months, the families don't exist because it's very tough to go about putting them together and saying, you know what, who cooks, who cleans, who does what, because you're spoiled for options in this market. You actually eat out a lot, you work the whole 9 years. So the part we have found out is that the RTE, RTU segment has not grown as much. It's been a 20% increase, right? Which is not much, but companies like Eastern Spices, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm saying, wow, they've actually grown from, 5 million dirhams a month. They've gone to about 9 million dirhams a month, which means that people actually were buying in raw material and cooking with them at home. So the thought process is that the South Indian population, and then I'm talking of Indians, have gone about cooking more at home. And they've gone in for products that they're comfortable with. And that's the part that's happened during COVID, that comfort zones have taken over. And people who know what they know have gone about going with things that they're comfortable. So it's been that picture that we have looked at in this market here.
Great, thank you. Irfan, I want to come and ask you, as a chef most of your life, and in the last couple of years, you now as an entrepreneur and now as a business head for a brand, your focus has moved obviously beyond the kitchen, right? You are responsible for the P&L now as much as you were earlier, but the focus is on that. I want to pick your brains on a couple of things which is happening specifically in India in the COVID times. 2 points. One is, do you see mergers and acquisitions in the restaurant brand space happening very soon in India? And two, there are a lot of restaurant brands, big ones and not big ones, shut down, literally announced shutdown. In your opinion, do you think this is an opportunism that they've chosen to shut down?
So to answer your first question, mergers and acquisitions, I don't see too many people wanting to buy into other restaurants. The restaurant industry, and especially for those people who understand the industry well, has always been cutthroat. For the layman, restaurants look good. You're serving food. It's fun. But they don't understand that there was a conversation you were having, remember, Satyan, when I commented, you had somebody who said that I'm cooking risotto at home and I know how much it costs, but you haven't calculated rent, you haven't calculated manpower cost, you haven't calculated your utility cost. I mean, everything eventually comes down to how profitable you can make your place. And the restaurant industry and the restaurants per se, it's always been a challenge. Unfortunately, I think the best position to be in currently is to be a property owner, and that's what the situation is. I think a lot of people, unfortunately, I don't think people who want to invest into restaurants actually understand the business. All the huge investors who have come in thinking that it's a fabulous business to be in, don't understand how the business actually runs, don't understand if you have the correct people running that business. But I think a lot of people today, it's been an eye-opener. Number one, so there are two sides to this, Satyan. One, I think people will shy away from actually trying to take over other restaurants. But for those who think there's an opportunity in it, because which is the second part of your question. I think a lot of restaurants who have today understood that it's not possible to to run and to run profitably, not for any other reason, not because you're doing anything wrong, but because that's just the way it is. I run 8 restaurants, and each market is different. You think a certain market's going to work really, really well, but it doesn't. And so what tends to happen is that this will then be an opportunity for my investors to turn around and say that, okay, you know what, this is our opportunity to get out of these markets. How much is it going to cost to shut a restaurant down vis-a-vis keeping it running? If that's going to be your your benchmark of how you're going to decide. And then you'll have a lot of opportunists who will say that, okay, you know what, this is what's happening. We have the money. Maybe we can take it over because infrastructure is already in place. We just need to sort of renegotiate the rent, and this is what we need to do. So I think for those who understand the business and who have the wherewithal and who have the funds, are going to sit and actually maybe look at a correct opportunity and maybe get into it. But to answer your second question, I think a lot of people who are already in the business, if it's an individual, I think it's easier to get out, especially because you don't want to bleed anymore. For bigger investors, for venture capitalists, and for the other bigger guys who are in this space, it's the opportunity to sort of say, okay, maybe we should get out. Unfortunately, they also want to make their money, right? So you need to find somebody who's willing to buy the place over, because it's fair enough to value a place, but in times of COVID, I mean, your valuation is gonna suck, I'm guessing. But yeah, I don't know if I've been able to answer your question correctly, but at the end of the day, if I put in this much, I put in 200 crores into your company, dude, fine, I'm willing to take a 20 crore cut, but I still want 180 crores back. And if I'm only going to get 120, then, maybe I'll just try and key to it, see where this goes. And then, finally, when things are looking a little better, then maybe look at pulling out.
Sure. No, I think you've answered it quite well, Irfan. And, where I was also coming from, and I want to put my 2 bits here, is my question basically came from the fact that in the industry of late, especially in our country, as you rightly said, we've had a lot of money, people with money, but not knowing the industry, who've invested in brands, created brands, or bought over good existing brands, and they are choosing to walk out. Mergers and acquisitions came from that perspective, that in a way, good that those who don't understand the food and the restauranting business will walk out eventually. Okay, and probably the people who understand it, to operate it, will continue maybe buying out the brands, not the property, because most of it is on lease. But either buy out the brand. I do personally believe, in my professional capacity, that it will take us a few more months. There's a lot of restaurants that are shutting down. A lot of them are not going to open up. Smartly blaming on COVID, but honestly, it's also bad economics on their side. Okay, they never managed their business properly. They took loans, and I'm not talking about the big boys or someone who's structured. I'm talking about people who don't know the business, who got into it for glamour. So they've taken bad properties. They've taken properties and paid shitloads of money and increased the rents. Don't know about food in some way or the other. They're the ones who are going to walk out in a good way for the industry. And I do see some kind of a renaissance coming. So good on that point. I'm going to take in a few questions that have popped in, and I'm going to read them out. So Kez Patel says, hello, Irfan, Dikra, and Bernard. Kayosh says, Irfan, Hindi, please. Binoyfer says, bonjour, Irfan. Glad to see you and proud to hear about your success story. Look forward to visiting your restaurant soon. She keeps telling that, Irfan, you need to invite her.
Yeah, I think it's about time. Then she can criticize the Parsi food all she wants. But I think I got the message now.
Yeah, no, she's a sweet. Beneath, no offense meant, but we will go together to soda bottle opener wala. Okay, we have everyone raising their hands. Hello again for all of you who popped in. Sanjay Batija has a question. He says, I want to ask you, with so many home chefs blooming in the country, having quite an extensive fanfare, would critic a job well done, reasons unknown, at your restaurant or catering, what would be your approach? Okay, this was on an earlier point of that when we spoke about critics and how you chefs handle it. So if three of you can, just pop up the Q&A on your screen and scroll down, you'll be able to see the questions also. So I have just read it out for the audiences. Anyone wants to answer this one by one, or maybe any one person? Brenna, do you want to try taking this one?
See, this happens to me very often nowadays because with the amount of home bakers around, especially, Mumbai or Goa, you kind of you do a course, you learn how to make it, and then you become a teacher. And then you start teaching the same cake that you learned about a week back, and you start generating money. I'm not against that. What I'm against is basically, they kind of little knowledge is really bad. Okay, I come from there. So most of them basically have not kind of upgraded their skills before they kind of, they speak out and, that kind of stuff. But with the number of home bakers coming into the market and that kind of thing, I mean, yes, they tend to get a little critical. They start underpricing themselves, which affects the entire market completely. So a customer is basically looking at everything cheap and best. So it tends to kind of screw the entire pendulum off, kind of thing.
Sure, thanks. So Irfan Swapan says, "Dear Irfan, nice haircut." And Binayfar has responded, "I will never criticize food because I understand what goes on behind the scenes." I think she sent a smiley or a heart. So good one. Thank you, Binayfar. Kshitij Inamdar, thank you, Kshitij, for coming back in again and for your question for Chef Bobby. Kshitij is also a chef, and he says, "What is the impact of COVID in the UAE? Are restaurant businesses back to normal? What are the difficulties they are facing? And is cloud kitchen the next big thing in your part of the world?"
Okay, Kshitij, see, COVID has impacted us all in different formats. This used to be a hub. The kind of people that would transit here in a month, we actually are now having what would be the transit number would be in 4 hours for the last month. What the transit's capacity was the total amount of tourists that came in. So we basically have come down to having no tourism at all. Which means that the restaurant segment or the industry has been very, very badly affected. But on the positive side, we've had a lot of maturity from the retailers on the rents. They've given us rental holidays and stuff. I haven't been so lucky, but a lot of companies have supported us on that. But they are following norms. And I think the one part that I have to give credit is that this is the safest place to be in currently. I was in India in March, and I came for a Har, and then I went about going to Bangalore, and I went to Goa, and then in Goa, I took a call of coming back on 12th of March. So my part is, India is a different market completely. The planes did not even have soap on the flight. It was an Indigo flight, and I actually told them, I said, "What's happening?" And she says, "No, it's the machine that's spoiled." I give a damn. I'm using a loo. I need the soap to be working for me. But the point is that the basics are being affected there. Here we have it working, and it's pretty interesting that we're talking of how much distance we need to have between people. We have to wear a mask. This is limiting to actually socialize, but we are limiting our socialization based on this part, which means that we are all in it together, and it's pretty good to see that part happening here. Is cloud kitchen the next big thing is the second question you've asked. You have to understand that the market dynamic has completely changed. The me-centric generation, sorry, I call the millennials that because I don't know anything better, have taught us a lot of things. When you're confined to your home, you want change. And it's not just cloud kitchens. There are dark kitchens, there are whatever you may call it. All of them have actually mushroomed up. And it's interesting that the menus have become, a menu has become, a story about one product. Which means if you're going for a company which does wings, then it's only wings that you're talking about. It could be grilled, it could be fried, could be just put through a pass, but the storyboard is wings. So you have something called Tawuk Nation. So all concepts are getting much more smaller. And companies in the market here have gone about really working it with brands, because even brands, to go about opening up in a place where the rents are so high, they need to go about working the business matrix differently. So the guy who runs Uber has gone about opening a restaurant space for cloud kitchens in this market. We have about 13 companies that are working in or competing in this segment of cloud kitchens in this market. So it's a very mature market for cloud kitchens. And anybody who has a restaurant today needs to go about looking at analyzing the data, finding out what works in the market, and actually adapting and having more concepts in the retail space that they have to survive in the future. Otherwise, it will not work. And the most interesting part that's happened is hotels have gone about embracing cloud kitchens to actually get their F&B going. And that's been a big change for me, because I never thought that would happen. To me, hospitality runs in my blood, and I find that so disturbing that hotels are actually offering the space to them.
I have a point on that. In fact, it's the next one that I was going to take it up with all three of you, but I'll wait for that. Divya, hi. Divya, you've been raising your hand. I'm assuming you want to say something. If you want to, there is a Q&A button on your screen. Type in there. Otherwise, hi. Every time you raise your hand, it means you're saying hello to everyone. So hello back to you. Same goes to Ashish Ji also. Thank you. Okay, there's a question from Sanjay. Sanjay, on the home chefs point, last season I did a session on home chefs. You might want to check that out and see what they think on that as well. It's there on the social media, and you could check it out on YouTube as well under season 1 of Candid Conversations. Sanjay has a second question. I think maybe Bernard, you can answer this. Having an alternative choice is
Before that, I would just like to add to what Bobby says. I mean, for the most part of the lockdown that I was in Thailand, I seen a completely different scenario over there. One, basically the country opened up back again way back in May. Businesses that were affected were basically people who had their restaurants in the tourist areas. Okay, but restaurants that were in which had the locals, okay, they were brimming with businesses. Okay, I still remember sometime in July, we went over to like a restaurant, bistro kind of stuff, 300, 400 people, dining together. The point about cloud kitchens, what Thailand has basically done with companies like Grab and Uber and Line, they have kind of like made their delivery services really, really strong. So most restaurants have kind of like, during the COVID times, basically have gone and kind of like done delivery systems. So you would walk into a mall, the ground floor, the basement of the mall would be brimming with entire teams of the home delivery systems. All the kitchens of the restaurants, okay, would have one desk at the basement, and there would be one coordinator from the mall, okay, who would coordinate between the restaurants, okay, and the delivery guys. So there were the delivery guys were making like a lot of money in Thailand, monthly about 30,000-40,000 baht per month, which is really good money. There were instances where we have articles came up where you had the air hostesses from Thai Vietjet, Thai Line Air, pilots and pursers, all doing home delivery to kind of like make ends meet. But it has kind of like changed the entire dynamics. I mean, today ordering food, I'm seeing how Singapore and Bangkok operates. Kitchens are small. You don't have like how we have our Indian kitchens, large spaces. But eating food from out and ordering food, I think so. It's going to be the new change kind of thing.
Sure. Thanks, Bernard. So Sanjay's next point is a little longer, but I will try and reduce it to get a synopsis of what he's trying to say and get your views as chefs. He says that there's a lot of different grains and consumption happening, alternative choices available on immunity boosters that we spoke about. But due to heavy marketing budgets driving people to not make good choices, like for example, shakes, caffeine, etc., loaded with ingredients which are harmful. How do you chefs relate to that? Quick words from all.
One thing, this is using the word immunity is like a really good cash cow. Okay, you put a little haldi and you put a chapa, it's, immune, probably you can sell it for $200 more, you know, and public is there. I mean, you have the public who's kind of like, who, we follow this herd mentality and, they want gluten free, they want, I mean, you use, what I'm trying to say is most of the companies, okay, that are actually doing this stuff, they know zilch about it. Okay, they wouldn't go back to the drawing board to actually see, whether the product is actually harmful or really good for the system and that kind of stuff. I remember, kind of like buying a protein bar once from a local home baker, and I landed up crapping the whole day because of the extra flaxseeds in it. So, the product looked nice, but then after that, I actually sent it to my team in Bombay that basically does our nutritional count and that kind of stuff for my product I have on the shelf. And they said it has got excessive fiber. You can't have so much fiber in one protein bar. So, a lot of the home bakers, home chefs are just recipes are a dozen on the internet. You take it, and most of the women, they'll pack it up properly. We men are a little lazy at packing. They will pack it cutely and, put a doily, a rope, and kind of, charge $200 for it. People will buy. But they don't kind of like understand the actual integrities of kind of like breaking down the nutrition before they kind of like sell it. But we have the public also who kind of like buys it. Yeah. So, at the end of the day, it is, you say, you need to make money at the end of the day. So for them, it's like they're making the money.
Sure.
I know
thoughts, Irfan?
exactly what when he was saying the public is there, I know what word he wanted to use, but we will not use that word. But no, I agree. I think the food that we have grown up eating, and things have changed today. Everything is so much more fast paced. It's so much easier just to maybe even sometimes buy chapatis from outside because they're available today. As opposed to sitting and making your own chapatis. From the time when once upon a time, I mean, we used to, bajra ka roti actually was part of our food that we used to eat. And you'd have a bajra ka roti at least minimum twice in a month. But that was just part of what we did, and it was part of I think we're all above 50. So when we grew up, it was our parents who made sure we got that food. Today it's different. Today it's about convenience. Today it's about, especially during this time, even to get my maid to make a bajri ka roti for me is the toughest thing to do. The thing is, today suddenly it's something which is ingrained in us. The problem is with the way we have moved. Things it's now becoming a fad. Like Bernard said, it's now all about trying to just say that, oh, this is a superfood and moringa is a superfood, and we've been eating shinga forever, man. And it is really, really good, and we eat it every day, and we eat it with sambar, and now suddenly you're using the moringa leaves and you're paying a shitload for it. And is it good? Yeah, of course it's good, but then because you have that packing and because you have that chop, suddenly it's become this whole thing. I'm of the opinion, keep it simple, make sure your flavors are spot on, use the correct amount of oil, just make sure that your cooking is done with a lot of heart, with a lot of sense. Go easy. Too much of anything is bad for you. Just sort of, dial it back a bit. And if it is going to be a bajra, or if it is going to be ragi, or if it is going to be something else, you know how to use it. You don't need somebody else trying to shove it down your throat, telling you how healthy it is. As long as you live a healthy lifestyle. Yes, we should promote millets, and yes, we should promote, if it's going to come in and it's going to make sure that the farmers eventually benefit from it. But there are too many middlemen. We're not going back to the roots to sort of take care of the guys who really need taking care of.
I think one part that I've learned over a period of time is that the most important part is your gut. And I don't talk as an entrepreneur here saying, you know what, my gut feel is this is going to work. But I think knowledge is something that you have to first educate yourself with and work with. So it's interesting to basically understand that the biome or the gut is going to be something we're going to be talking more of as we move ahead, the next 10 years. But that said, what happens is that you have these people who come and tell you, extra virgin olive oil is good for you. And you look at them and say, okay, what do you do with it? And he says, I actually make my dal with it. So I said, okay, I give you 10 years, you'll die with cancer. I mean, that's one way of having a conversation. I mean, I don't know what I should tell them, because it's very difficult to actually be a chef and, sit down and keep a straight face when people are trying to tell you what you should do for cooking or whatever else, because it doesn't work. And I'm talking of, actually, this was a live example, and I was with some housewives club in the UK, and they were all wives of millionaires and stuff. So I'm sure they got their servants doing the stuff for them. But the point is, you cannot use an extra virgin olive oil to cook your food, which is Indian, because oil needs to have a tadka, and tadka needs oil to reach a smoke point. So you work a process. So my point is, first is understanding. But one educated guess I will tell people is, change your oil medium every 3 months. This is what I've learned, because then absorption works, because your body is going to be as lazy as you are. So your body is only going to work the way you want to. Unfortunately, we don't fast as we used to before. So our gut doesn't do the job it's supposed to. So change your oil medium every 3 months. And if possible, don't go for too much of manufactured oil. So that's education that we're talking of. But the second part that we're talking of is fads. Everybody was eating quinoa at one time, right? My point is, man, we've been eating millets for centuries in India. From 5th century BC, there's records of eating millets. How did this one quinoa become the superfood, right? You mentioned moringa. We eat sambar, and that's been something that in 7th century BC became a part of our meal, because the people in southern India were actually suffering from vitamin C deficiency and scurvy and causing spina bifida. And that's how curry patta and drumstick and vitamin C in the form of tamarind became a staple in our food. So there is history in our food as such, right? But that is if you research it and you have the knowledge for it. But if I go about saying moringa is superfood and you have it, and if you have a composition of pitta, that is a body type that is like me, that is, high heat kind of body, you're going to have the runs, man. You're going to have loose motions that's going to affect the shit out of you. You're going to be sitting on the pot all day. So my point is, it's about knowledge. It's about understanding food. It's about, a lot of things actually go into creating those habits for us at home. That's important. Coming down to a dish like Irfan mentioned, it's about keeping it simple, having fun, making sure the flavors come out, and we get a joy of actually offering it to people. That's more important. It's how we look at it.
Well said, Bobby. And for everyone listening, I've said this in my earlier sessions, and some of you who know me, this is a marketer on steroids worldwide who does these things every now and then, and we start copying it. This is good, that is not good. As rightly Bobby said, you need to understand what suits you and your body types. Swapan Banerjee is giving some compliments to you, Irfan. Says, well said. He also continues by saying, it's a shame in the land of Ayurveda where food is considered as medicine. At the end of the day, it's all about money. We don't have a system to ensure. Not exactly, Swapan. Lots has changed here. It's not as bad as the world makes it out to be here. But yes, ignorance is everywhere in the world. And his comment is, I agree with Chef Bobby, absolutely. Just to share, in Dubai, we have a concept of Dubai Assured, where each establishment has a 15-day cycle for an audit by the Dubai municipality. Dubai is one of the safest places at this time. Sure. Absolutely. And then I think I missed out something, but I'm going to quickly go. There was one. Did I miss out something? There's a question from Pradeep. I don't know. I can't see that. I thought I saw it somewhere, unless it's out.
Well, he was the question from Pradeep. I actually answered it online. He was asking me. He was asking me about. On the one hand, we are seeing a lot of RTUs and other products being sold, but a lot of people are buying quality ingredients, and there seems to be a lot of people moving towards that segment of wanting the best and natural products or organic products in that segment.
Okay.
So my answer to that was, I think we need to find out who the market is. There are parents who want to give the best to their children, like we got the best from our parents and did the stuff that we're talking of. And I said, there's also a market which has a lot of bachelors and dynamic families who want to, quick fix. So it's just that the market decides what kind of products sell in the market.
Okay.
But I personally feel RTU foods is the future. Okay, just wait for the 7-Eleven to kind of like start in India. Okay, you'll have everybody eating out of 7-Eleven. I mean, I know people in Singapore or in Thailand. I mean, 7-Eleven is a staple, or Family Mart, or something that way. So there's a huge scope in ready-to-eat foods, and just wait. I mean, now I do not know whether Ambani will open up the 7-Eleven because Kishore Biani was supposed to do it. So we'll have to wait, and there's going to be a huge boom.
But Bernard, good you brought this up. I have a little different view. I don't think a brand like 7-Eleven or any brand of a supermarket is going to allow or entice people to start buying RTE or RTU foods. They're already there in India. They're already there in every major city, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, in some form or the other. So this is my assumption, that a brand, just because a 7-Eleven or the types of 7-Eleven comes to India, it's not going to make a housewife or a house husband or a family to go and start buying food from there, because RTE is already available and it's not catching up as much as it is worldwide.
I personally feel it's just a matter of time. The amount of investment that is basically done by these companies. They play on different aspects. They play on packaging. They play on colors of packaging. They play on soft points where basically entice a consumer to kind of like be loyal to buying their products. Okay, like for example, I was working with Lay's, and we were also working with Nestle on Kit Kat. And Japan has about 450 types of Kit Kats, okay, always available on their shelves, okay. You must see the way that these guys put in, their marketing strategies into making people kind of like buy their products. Maybe not in 5 years in India, but 10 years, I think so. We are all going to be bound by RTU products.
Yeah,
and I think so. I mean,
I don't doubt the power. Sorry,
for chefs like us, I mean, if for chefs like us, basically, if we have the knowledge and to do it right, we can get a new Mercedes soon.
But I would. So my point of view is this: I think the ready-to-eat market is still very, very nascent. Obviously, marketing plays an important role, but I think the cloud kitchens is what's going to make a difference. It's easier for somebody to order food, a single person who lives in Lower Parel, to sit down, order food for himself, as opposed to going out and actually reheating the food or adding something else to it. Like, for example, a pav bhaji mix. You still need to add the vegetables. You need to boil the vegetables, you need to boil the green peas, and you need to boil the potatoes, and then you need to put it all together. And then, that's everything that you need to do to be able to do it. As opposed to just picking up the phone and ordering food from one of these cloud kitchens. Number one, it's not going to be so expensive, because being in a cloud kitchen, if you can work a sensible sort of financial format for that, you're not paying crazy rent. Although you see some of the guys who are setting up cloud kitchens, we will give you everything. You give us 50%. I mean, seriously. So you have the ridiculous, but you also have people who actually think that it's a viable model. At the end of the day, yes, RTE could be something that is going to happen, but I still think that for Indians, ordering in, and that's the order of the day, is, I think, 5, 6, 7 years from now is what it's going to sort of remain at.
Yeah, I think, okay, great. I'm coming to the last part, and I wanted to ask you guys before we start winding up is, Bobby mentioned something very briefly, and I said, yeah, that's my part, and that is exactly what I want to talk to you guys about. 5-star hotels having started home delivery. Okay, amazing. Yes, we never thought of it. I don't think anyone would have thought of it. Thanks to COVID, not only 5-star hotels and brands, local and international, have taken this as a business vertical and a segment. Some of them claim that it was always in the pipeline and they just use this to launch it. Some are very honest enough to say, well, I want to make money, whatever comes my way, why not? Your thoughts, Bobby, Bernard, and Irfan, on ordering food from five-star hotels, and does it trivialize their brand?
I'll be very honest. I had a free buffet from the Centara Group in Bangkok. Centara is a huge chain, okay, and I've done some consultancy for them, and I was invited by one of the general managers for a buffet. Now I had to wait for a date of a buffet because the buffets don't happen every weekend there because there are no tourists to basically dine at the restaurants. But one fine Saturday, we were there at the buffet. The buffets are such where basically it's a menu that's kept in front of you, and everything is got to you in small plates. Okay. Now the Centara Group basically also started doing, like Cloud Kitchen and giving off food delivery services on Grab and on Uber Eats. And I happened to ask the same question to the general manager, and I said, why would you do that? He's like, I have staff, we have the ingredients, okay, and we have to kind of like, sell out. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to kind of like generate some money. And yes, the only thing that is that from the 5 stars, yeah, short of the quality, the packaging is pretty nice. They were even offering home delivery of a whole brunch. The whole brunch comes like in a huge bloody box, okay, with about some 20, 30 different items, and you pay about some 700 baht, and you kind of like have that whole thing. I mean, you spend so much of money on packaging. There's so much of paper, so much of foil, so much of plastic. Yeah. So I asked him, is it really, effective? He's like, but yes, at the end of the day, we also have to show top line. So at these points of time, I guess a lot of these hotels and the kind of stuff are just trying to generate top line to kind of like please their investors and that kind of stuff. Because I know of a lot of hotels in Bangkok and in Pattaya that are turning turtle. Turn turtle because the owners basically have got the hotels on bank loans and kind of stuff, and they really can't pay. A lot of them have become COVID hotels where basically they're taking in money from the government and kind of like trying to to sustain themselves. But I think so. It's just basically they're just trying to show that we're doing some kind of like business. I mean, I personally feel that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I don't think it's about showcasing your food, and trying to make sure that this is why not give the people it's I don't think it's about that. I don't think 5-star hotels are about that. I think it's just about trying to make sure that at the end of the day you're able to show some sort of top line. It's about just and that's what it is, right? This is today, necessity is the mother of invention. We are in unprecedented times. You can't really blame them. And you will have suckers out there who are happy to pay that sort of those sort of numbers for food which comes in from a 5-star hotel. But yeah, it's amazing. And who do you blame, Satyan? Guys, who do you actually blame? This is what it is. People who have started cooking at home, suddenly, there are a lot of people who bake. But suddenly these guys are cooking for the family and the kids love the food and they're like, why not? Why not sit and actually sell the food? And is it going to rake you in lakhs and lakhs and lakhs? It's not. But if you enjoy what you're doing, if you are able to crank out those 6 or 7 dishes, but like I said, necessity is the mother of invention. It is what it is. This is what the situation is currently, and everybody is going to try and get onto that bandwagon to try and at least generate some sort of revenue.
Sure. No, I agree. I have nothing against any 5-star brand doing anything to sustain. My point is, as a consumer, is does it dilute their brand value? Bobby, your thoughts on that?
I don't think anyone cares. Sorry.
Okay.
I think hospitality or Indian hospitality is legendary. I always believe the brick and mortar and hotels was some place I went to celebrate in the past. I would always want to keep that alive, but I think they will need to look at actually looking at change themselves. If they're looking for ROI, it has to be about value. So I think they need to understand the value quotient from a perspective of what they're offering out there, because that's what will bring in the customers. Otherwise, they will end up being a place where only weddings happen, right? Because they're giving a service of room along with F&B. That's what might happen in a business hotel. Today, you will see that the formats will get smaller, which means you might need a restaurant, a coffee shop, and a bar. That's about, I mean, the restaurant would be the coffee shop and a bar. That's about it. There won't be something more added to it. So basically, hotels might change to something which we used to call B&B. It was, which was something we would call something bed and breakfast. Today, it's called bums and beds. It's about numbers, It's about the money, honey. That's the reality in the business we're in. So unfortunately, we have to be realistic with what is happening there. I would never want a hotel to dilute or I would not like to see a Uber Eats guy or a Zomato guy walking out of a hotel to where I'm staying. I think it's going to dilute what I'm basically working on. But if I'm going to go about putting it down, hotels will have to survive, and they will need to look at innovative ways to do it. That residences or the smaller formats can actually go about having a range of restaurants in their segment and offer a bigger cuisine or a menu for room service and in other places. That will happen because the kitchens that we are talking of today are getting smarter and smaller. So what I always believe is, if I'm going to stand and put my arms around, that's the distance I need to give to a concept. 2.5 meters, that's my concept. I can't go beyond that. And in that, I need to go about giving you a concept of street food. And I've done it. I've worked with companies like Zaroob, which does Levant cuisine. I've looked at that part of it. I've done the same thing with Lumi. I've been doing it, but I never applied it as a thought process. But that's what is happening in the dark kitchen space today. So we are going to have this market mature. Change is going to be the game that we are talking about. And adapting to this environment is going to be the name moving forward. But will that change the experience of hospitality? I would never want that to be compromised. So my part is, it's going to be a tough call to make moving forward.
Super. Thank you very much, Bobby, Irfan, and Bernard, for your lovely thoughts. I have this thing about food. There are a lot of chefs who can make people enjoy their first bite, but there are very few who will let you and their cooking enjoy that till the last bite. I've tasted each of your foods, each of you personally. I've enjoyed the first bite, the last bite, and in between. Thank you for the cooking. Thank you for culinary wonders that you guys do. I feel one session is not enough. We need to have many more candid conversations, Hindi, Arabic, Punjabi, 3.5 cubes of ice included. And
Bindas Bate.
Yes, Bindas Bate, yeah. So good. Thank you for that. And I appreciate your time. I'm taking the last bit of questions or comments that are coming in quickly. Kshitij says, thank you, Chef Bobby. Sanjay says, thank you, Bernard. Chef Aurora. Chef, I'm requesting you, is it possible for you to come and say a few words, please? It'll be our honor, sir. Chef Aurora? Oops, sorry.
Hi.
Yes, Chef.
Hello.
Please.
Hi, Satyan. Hi.
Chef, good
Satyan,
evening.
I'm really, hi, good evening. Good evening, Satyan. I'm really, I must tell you, I really thank you for introducing these three great chefs to us. I mean, I'm really fascinated the way the depth of knowledge they have and the way they are working in their fields. I wish I could meet them sometime, and especially Irfan. Irfan, I'm really very happy to listen to you. And I've been to Soda Water Bottle Opener Wala. I really loved your Parsi food there. God bless you, my friend.
Thank you so much. And that's a privilege. Thank you so much. I'm very honored.
Thank you, Chef.
God bless you.
Thank you, Chef.
And I feel very happy that India has a lot of good chefs, but they are hidden. You see, somebody should do things like that to bring them forward. And today, only TV chefs are known.
Yes, chef. And that's why the TV chefs are not on Candid Conversations,
Yeah.
and they never will be. And I'm extremely choosy about the right people that I want, not because I know them, but for the fact that more people need to hear about them and their stories and what they believe in. But Chef Arora, thank you so much for your kind comments. And we'll look forward to your blessings again and again. And as one of the last comments from Ashish Barot, Bobby, that's for you. He says, having said that, food can always go out from the back door of the hotels. I think that was on a comment that you gave about food going out earlier. But thank you, guys, Bobby, Bernard, and Irfan. It was lovely having you. And I wish I had a little more time.
Thank you.
We will keep talking, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you, audience. Look forward to many more candid conversations with you guys. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Satyan.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Pleasure's all mine. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.